Shout out to all the big dogs, boss hogs, and all of that. Yes. Grand Rising. Spark up this kush. Man, it's super weird vibes, but in other news, finished with Chakra Nova, finished with the everything and like the slideshow, the notes. So now what I'm gonna do Thursday to Friday, Saturday even, is rehearse, and just make sure that it flows, make sure it makes sense, and then generally when it comes to Saturday, just letting it all go. So Grand Rising, good morning. Whatever they say in your culture when y'all wake up to each other, I'm saying that to y'all. Peace. The link is in the description, link is in the bio to sign up for our Chakra Nova Crown Chakra Activation Workshop. It's probably going to be some of the most profound information that you'll ever hear in your life. And that's just because I'm saying that because I'm actually in the space of putting it together. And when I'm saying I'm putting together some of the most clear, some of the most profound, some of the most spiritual energy that I ever came up with, this is that. So I ain't gonna bore y'all with promotions. I'm gonna go right into the shit. So, as you know, as we all know, motherfuckers is doing upside down magic and things of that nature. People are in the space of WandaVision and, you know, all of these particular psyops, Disney Plus, Netflix, Instagram, YouTube, all of these corporate conglomerates with one thing in mind, and that's your attention. The message for today is to pull you guys all into a meditative space. So this live is not going to be brought forth by me. This live is going to be brought forth our collective higher selves. So when we reference our collective higher selves, they have been really on me to speak to this in a clear, concise, distinct way. We are entering into a new cycle, which started in 2021, but not exactly June 1st. It started June 26, 2020. Now, most people say that is the passing of Kobe Bryant, which is true, but it was also the start of the Lunar New Year. Now, the Lunar New Year is a phase of about 20 years, give or take. And each year, they have a different animal. Now, the rat is not really the first animal in the Lunar New Year. The ox is the first year. So you have ox, but you also have the Hebrew letter Aleph, which is an ox. And when you think about an ox, you also think about Taurus, which is the bull. Now, the bull is important on earth, and it is important celestially. When Mithras slays the cosmic bull, he also slays our knowledge of the land. So generally, when we do not rely on the land, when we are land babies, we brought forth from the earth. We are grounded, connected to the earth. When we lose sight of that and we tune into the actual power structure or power grids and things of that nature, we're tuned in and tapped in to what everybody is doing online. But we are not tuned in and tapped in to our higher selves, in which creates the quarter moon energy. So we always reference the quarter moon based upon the new moon. And we have intentions during the new moon that we are hoping to bring into manifestation. But when we do not bring these things into manifestation right away, the natural thing would be to doubt. Or the more learned thing, the more advanced thing to do would be to tune in to your higher self. Because a quarter moon is also sun square moon. And when you reference a square, you're referencing energies that you can't do anything about, right? I always say, if you don't got a thumb, there's no sense in doing rituals and prayers and ashe and offerings to get a thumb. You just don't have a thumb. Figure it out. So within our lives, there will be things that we do not have. There will be skills that we cannot possess. This is why it is imperative, super imperative, that we adapt and adjust to communal living. This is the beginning of a cycle. In reference to the ox, in reference to the Taurus, this was the first level of slavery. The ox was in the pasture doing its own thing. And then humans decided for our personal gain that we should domesticate the ox and have him plow our lands and our farms, which was a great idea. Because what had tend to happen was that you could get an ox can get a lot more done than a human could do on a farm. So generally, the civilizations that employed the ox then venerated the ox because the ox were the reason for his overabundance of food, supplies, and resources. Generally, if you have food, okay, if you know how to create food through planting, through gardening, you will never starve. But if you don't know how to do these things, then you might easily starve in these next coming years. The plan was simple: divide and conquer. And what we are witnessing is an implementation of that. The simple solution is come together. Coming together is going to be extremely difficult without shadow work. The example is there are families that exist right now that don't talk to one another based upon expectations, rules, and guidelines that were either broken, not met, or just misunderstood. So when we get to a point where we're trying to establish how we are going to move forward, but it's not even how we are going to move forward, it is how I am going to move forward, then you will miss out on this actual cycle once again, if you ever were coming to this cycle, because this is a beginning of a 20-year cycle, meaning that for the most of us, 20 years ago, we were children. So this is our first awareness to what it is to be woke or conscious. So what is woke? What is being conscious? It is channeling your higher self and listening to your higher self. I've been on this path for a while. And so generally, at the beginning of this time, even before the CV hit, I decided to move my family, which was embedded and ingrained into Ohio. Instantly, I decided that we should leave our home and move to Detroit, which would put us in a vulnerable situation However, it would put us in close proximity to family. Because when I noticed that the world was going to shit, I realized that even though me and my wife love each other, we weren't going to be able to survive and exist alone. And this is what my higher self was channeling to me. So generally, it wasn't like a beg or a force or a demand. It was a reduction of my ego consciously to be as of much aid and to be as of much support as I possibly could be to myself, to my family, to my friends, and also the people that are resonating with me when I get into my ministry bag. Because I knew that things were going to get tough. And generally, family, things could even possibly get tougher. But within the toughness is actually the solution. Yeah, toughness is not a word, but it did kind of flow in reference to what I was speaking to. So when the situation is in toughness energy, you then rely on the solution, which is community. Now, community is when you show up and say, this is what I have to offer. I'm going to contribute in this way. And within the community, the way that you contribute is a service that is needed. But everybody within the community is presented themselves as a knowledgeable, useful energy. Now, the reason why we just can't walk into this all hunky-dory and things of that nature is right within the surface. It's on the skin color and it's on the title. We generally view ourselves as either black or African American. But the deeper reality is that we are souls. So what color is the soul? The soul don't have no color. That's just the facts. The soul ain't black, blue, brown, white, yellow, nothing. It is translucent. It is non-physical. So if it is non-physical, it does not rely on a color. But you have to do so much shadow work. You know how many Moorish, how much Nation of Islam, how much rhetoric that I have to actually mull through to get to the point of finding the actual source of my creation, and my actual lineage and my actual story was found in channeling my higher self. So I just want to show you guys the energy in reference to astrology. So if you see that gold circle, that's where the moon is at. It's in sidereal Taurus, in the first decan of Taurus, and it's squaring the sun, which is in the first decan of Aquarius. So what you have is an air and earth square. So you have a mental expression squaring a physical reality. So mentally, you will not be where you are physically, and physically you won't be where you're at mentally. There is no solution to this problem other than channeling your higher self. And then you want to get into a pattern and a routine of this, because then you can now look back and say, well, goddamn, my higher self was really on point, because I really did channel that motherfucker, and I really did have no ego, nor did I have any expectations. Ego says, no, I can't move in with my in-laws, right? My ego says I need my own shit. But the reality says the only way that I'm able to live out my dreams, to be successful, to support my family, is to lean on people who can give me advice. I never had a dad. I never had a father to give me real life masculine energy that I could then share with my family. I have to sit down and learn that shit. And I learned through osmosis. I have to actually be witnessing certain type of shit. And I gotta listen to people. I gotta talk to people. I gotta pick people's brain. I gotta figure out their experience. I gotta know how it felt for a 65-year-old, 75-year-old, 85-year-old man. What was it like when you was 36? Because if I don't have that, then I won't have the actual skills to be able to be that old man. So I'm always looking for lessons. I'm always looking for suggestions on how I can be better. And I'm not saying that that's like some cool shit. All I'm saying is that I'm channeling my higher self. And so I want to explain to you how channeling your higher self shows up in a chart. So as I stated earlier, the moon is in the first decan of Taurus. The card, or the tarot card, that rules the first decan of Taurus is the 5 of Pentacles. So in order for me to understand the moon in Taurus, in the first decan of Taurus, then if I don't just know what that means, then I can actually look at the card to get the vibration of what that means. And of course, when you deal with Taurus, you're also dealing with big Scorpio energy. So shout out to all of the goddesses. Shout out to all of the divine masculine energy that is holding space. How do you hold space? By reflecting on your higher self and listening to what the fuck it says to say. But you actually have to be positive in mindset, because that's the #1 rule for your higher self. Your higher self wants the absolute best for you. So this is an absolute positive state of mind to be in. Sometimes we can listen to our delusions. Sometimes we can listen to our illusions. Sometimes we can listen to our fear. But that is not channeling the higher self. It is not just mere thinking. It is a life's work. It requires effort. And when you're doing it and when you're acting, you might not be validated till 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years later. Okay? You don't channel your higher self then for the ego to be like, thank you, higher self. That was awesome. My higher self is better than your higher self. It's not that type of party. It is just a constant relief and a constant solution. But it's in a positive mind frame, no matter where you may be physically. So when you look at the Rider-Waite, we're going to look at the Rider-Waite card, and then we're also going to look at the Thoth Tarot deck, and I'm going to explain the 5 of Pentacles so you can actually understand the energy. It's a understanding to being challenged when you understand the 5 of Pentacles. Now you have a man with no leg and another dude that's walking in the snow outside of a church. And this is like when I was studying tarot, and I would just be studying it, and it never really clicked. But when I studied this card, it clicked for me. Maybe because 5 is just my number and I'm an earth sign, but the 5 of Pentacles really clicked for me. And I promise you, once I understood this card, if I really think about it, I never was able to look back. I've always been in a place of peace and understanding, because I was walking outside in the cold for a long time, family. I lived my life walking outside in the cold. And what does walking outside in the cold actually look like? Worrying about what everybody else got going on. Worrying about what everybody think about you. You ever been homeless and worried about what people is thinking about you? Well, what's the problem with that? You should be thinking about how to fuck not be homeless, because you already homeless, right? So generally, the steps that would have you questioning, why am I in this position? Why am I looking around like this? Why do I feel this way, right? Why am I in survival mode? Well, it's a natural response to humanity. It's not going to be a sense where no matter who you are, you have millionaires in survival mode, right? You have people that's making a lot of money doing crypto and things of that nature, still can't shake the fact that they're in survival mode. Because when you understand the 5 of Pentacles, you then know your solution. So they're walking outside in the snow in front of a church. That church is heated. It got food in there. It got virgins in there, whatever you want, right? But what is the church in actual understanding in real life? The church is your higher self. The church is your soul, meaning that you could walk outside in the snow as long as you want. But the church of your higher self, the temple of your higher self, is always going to be open. And there's one specific thing that we also want to take note. It's not just one person walking on the snow. It's two people. So when we understand what our higher selves has for us, it is to learn our relationships. And we like to backdoor our relationships. We like to sidestep our relationships. No, me and my wife, we have to go into our higher self together. So whatever, if I'm in the church and she outside the church, that's fucked up. But if she in the church and I'm outside the church, that's fucked up too. But let me tell you the beautiful part of the relationship. If I'm outside of the church, I know that when she inside the church, she gonna try to pull me back in, and vice versa. Because you don't want your wife or your significant other or your life partner or your community members or the people that you involved with or the people that you deeply in love with to be outside of the church. That's the whole concept of the church. Come in, have a hot plate, warm yourself up. We got beds in the basement. We're going to figure it out through our souls. And you might say that I don't think that I can do that. All I'm gonna say is that you ain't never tried and you ain't never attempted. Because I was the one that was walking outside of the code. I know that. I can remember it vividly. I remember sleeping in the van in the cold, and the shit was bone chilling. Like, you ever heard the term bone chilling? Ain't nothing worse than having your bones cold, like the middle of your bones, and you got cover on too. So you got cover and blankets on, and none of that shit is working. Everything in you is just cold. Okay? Thus, when you in a situation like that, you gonna really look for a solution. And for me, the solution was actually dealing with your soul, understanding your hardship, understanding why you got into any negativity. I guarantee you, there is no person on this earth saying, I'm fully vested in my soul work and I'm still out here struggling. I'm fully vested in my shadow work, my soul work, trying to reach out, have community, build community, learn survival skills, things of that nature, and I'm still fucked up. Meaning that we got an opportunity to connect. It's millions upon millions of black men and women just thirsty for connection, thirsty for hope, thirsty for guidance, thirsty for community. One thing, they're not black. The other thing is that we need to actually get the psychological work going. Because if we're going to be together, if we're going to be in communities together, and we don't understand the psychological component, then we're just going to say, on surface value, whatever I see is going to be what it is. That should get you fucked up. And we know that. So generally, we have to get into deep diving. So there's many different ways we can do it. I personally feel like through mushrooms, through actually doing psychedelics as a group, not like heavy high doses, but microdosing, learning how to communicate, where we should have talking circles where we just explain how we feel and what we think, and everybody in the community listen with open hearts and open minds. Do you know how many people got a story to tell but nobody to tell it to? You could easily call somebody, reach out to somebody and be like, bro, how you doing today? Sis, how you doing today? Because the reality is that if we are not fully ingratiated in understanding our higher selves and our non-physical beingness, we are at a loss. Because when you adapt this non-physical beingness as a concept, you are very easy to be, you can pull people in, right? You can help people out. You could really tap into your ability to be a light worker, to be a healer, because you're not a human being, you're a goddess, you're a god. Now, the human within us might be outside in the code, but then we ultimately know our solution. Generally, the problem with adversity, The problem with struggle, the problem with being left out in the cold, the problem with negative thoughts is that it's harder and harder and harder to come within the longer you stay with outside. You ever see the person who just homeless? Like he just homeless or she just homeless. Like she not even trying to get into the crib because she done been there for so long. Her like their mindset is just completely adapted to that of shelter, panhandler, shelter. So when you have negative thoughts, you then might turn into a conscious panhandler. Whereas you perpetually feel down because you stayed outside for so long. Thus, the solution at the beginning is to open the doors of the temple and walk in. So when you understand unconditional love, that is the understanding of the church. It's always going to be open. The doors are never going to be locked. It's always going to be food. It's always going to be warmth. No matter what you go through. So the Thoth Tarot deck is tied into worry. 5 of this. And so just to explain, people who just coming on here, you have the 5 of this, the 5 of Pentacles, which represents the first decan of Taurus. And that's presently where the moon is squaring the sun. The card that represents the first decan is the 5 of this. That card is then thus titled Worry. Now, worry is an interesting concept because worry is more of a colonialism concept. When you reference human beings are domesticated like animals. And in order to be domesticated like animals, you have to promote and permeate deep within their psyches to be afraid. And generally, when you are afraid, the problem with being afraid is that you're no longer creative. You're no longer super deep nigga on YouTube no more. You're no longer conscious soul sister anymore, right? When shit hits the fan. Because that was never what it was about, honestly. Generally, when you understand that this process is not about dealing with people in a space of, Hood Mystic, I really like you. That don't really matter to me, fam. And generally, the things that I'm trying to accomplish with another person is extremely deep and extremely like earth moving. Like I want to learn how to fucking take care of my family in the wild. I want to learn how to garden. I want to learn how to hunt. Right? You telling me, Hood, I really like your content. Great. I'm out here trying to connect. I deeply want to connect, but I understand that I have to do shadow work. My family has to do shadow work. You have to do shadow work. We all have to do shadow work because we can come deep within our souls and our souls will direct us towards one another. But if there's no shadow work, then we're either trying to have sex with that person, trying to take over their life and their purpose, because generally we don't fully understand domestication. So domestication has us wanting to be man and wife or sexual partners for survival. When you're free, you generally say, wait a second, we don't have to do any of that. We could actually hold space forever and never cross those boundaries. Because I'm not trying to domesticate a person. You know, it's crazy. Because it's not, I'm trying to breed nobody. You know, I'm trying to be a channel for my ancestors. And I want to be a portal for my ancestors to come back that need to continue their journey down here. Maybe I'll come back, maybe I won't. I don't necessarily know. But I don't hate it on Earth. I actually love laying in bed with my wife and squeezing her butt and like rubbing her and stuff like that. That actually is fucking awesome. to lay in the bed with your wife and fucking cuddle and do the spoon, big spoon, little spoon, kiss her on her neck and shit like that. She's smooth. Her skin is like all chocolatey and shit. Like, you know it's chocolatey because it be chocolatey in the dark time in the night. It's like, damn, this feel like chocolate right now. It's weird. But that's beside the point. I love it here, right? I love being with her. So generally, if we have to live in the woods, I would be cool. As long as she with me, long as my kids is with me, long as we're adapting, I'm fine with it. But generally, we have to thus be connected to nature. We can be connected to this government, or we can be connected to nature. It ain't about being conscious. It ain't about being woke. It's about an actual function of tuning into your higher self, and your higher self being that guide. We can talk to animals. We can talk to plants. We can talk to trees. We just cut that part of our being off. And then when we have trouble, we can talk to our ancestors. We just cut that part off.
It's kind of, as you say, talk to animals.
Exactly. I got a picture of a bunny. I want to show it to you, but it's like in the street with it. Like, you ain't never seen a bunny just in the street. Just not giving no fucks. Because generally, we've been actually brought here by an actual bunny spirit, Nana Bozo. And I reference Nana Bozo every time I see it and feel it and understand it. Generally, when you say Mercury retrograde, you also dealing with a trickster god. So what does that trickster god want you to do? Ultimately, it's going to bring you hell until you've realized what's the solution. That solution is going to be your higher self as a collective. We have to. It is imperative that we learn community. And we cannot learn community by trying to stick our dicks into everything that we see or get booty naked for every divine masculine we come across. Just because he got a beard and muscles don't mean you gotta lay up with him, sis. Just because she's sexy don't mean you gotta come at her on some sexual shit. If you learn how to hold space, if we learn as a people how to hold space without fucking Cardi B blaring in the background, we might fare good in this actual world. Because there's still millions of us. And we still are very smart and very talented. But when it comes to our sexual energy, we fall short. Thus, it is very important that we know we don't worry. And it's very simple not to worry. You trust your higher self and you follow what your higher self is telling you. Generally, these sheep can walk off the farm at any moment. But they send a wolf dog. This is so crazy. The wolf dog don't even ever bite the sheep. It just runs around the sheep constantly. Runs around the sheep in circles. And as he runs around the sheep in circles, the sheep, so afraid of what possibly could happen, they move as the actual shepherd wants them to move. So the dog thus is the overseer. The shepherd is the slave master. And they actually have it within American mythology. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He provided for me. No, actually, the goddess. That's all the goddess. And we say that it's the Lord. But the actual Lord is your shepherd. You are the sheep. And niggas will pray that shit with their hearts and souls. Every person you know that actual Bible verse. The Lord is my shepherd. No, the hell he's not. I don't need no fucking shepherd. Okay? I'm not a fucking sheep. I'm not fucking asleep. I'm awoke, and I know that we need to figure out how to come together. But we can't come together if you thinking that, well, maybe Hood'll slide me some D a little later if I play my cards right. That requires shadow work. Because ain't nobody sliding you nothing. We're only here to build and learn and grow from one another. We need each other. But if we have sex, it's going to ruin everything. Especially if I'm already in a relationship. Especially if you already in a relationship. And generally people will say, well, ain't nobody talking about sex. But this is why we need to do shadow work. This is why we need to microdose and see what we're like in our animalistic sense, because you might be a completely different person underneath that shadow. This is real spill. So understanding that if you're not microdosing, shout out to my boy Kev. If you're not fucking ayahuasca in it, I know y'all trying to do it like fasting, drinking water and shit, like something that says I'm giving up my humanity and going closer to my divinity. Because once you make that shift, once you make that commitment, it might not be red roses for you, but you'll have the inner peace that you're making the best decision for yourself. So in reference, this moon phase, quarter moon in Taurus, is not a time to feel superior. It's a time to be honest. What compromises are you willing to make? What do you have to learn? Where do you have to grow? Right? Because power is never a spot of humanity. It's so crazy. People are saying they're cutting the power off. You're literally telling me that they're cutting the power off when you generate electricity. Meaning that if they could cut the power off, you wouldn't even be able to reference that they cutting the power off because you are power. But when we lose our external comforts, we reference that to be power. See, your external comforts was never power if somebody can take it away from you. This, as a people, as a community, if we don't fucking understand this, we will suffer. When we realize that as we come together, nobody can take shit away from us. When we understand that we are immortal and see, this is what the tribes understood. This is why when colonialism took place and they slaughtered the tribes, there was energies like Nana Bozo and trickster figures that would laugh at the white man. Just laugh at the white man. Just clown their ass. And the white man would be confused. Why aren't you scared? Why aren't you scared? Because we already know that you can't kill that which is non-physical. See, and then they created Christianity, which gave humans a hell paradigm. So then we thus thought, I don't want to burn in hell. The other irony is that we non-physical beings. You ever tried to burn air? It can't burn. It don't burn. The only thing that can burn is your physical. So when you die, your body be still on earth. Your spirit goes to ascend. And it can't be burned. But it sounds crazy that I'm saying it, but I'm telling you, it's millions and millions and millions and millions of people that do certain things because they don't want to burn in hell. Like, for real, don't want to burn in hell. Not even fully realizing that they're a non-physical, powerful entity. So when you reference the physicality, you got hierarchy, you got superiorness, you got higher levels. When you reference the spirituality or the divinity, you have non-physicalness, you have nothingness, and this is where we need to actually stay and be at. Because we need to get the downloads. We need to get the information. And if we can't do that as a collective, if we can't be on nothingness together, what is nothingness? Nothingness within itself is no judgment. So how you going to get into a relationship? Build with somebody and be like, well, he's sexy or not sexy. You're not going to be able to reach a meditative spot because every time they enter the room, you're going to think about how much you want them and things of that nature, which is cool. But see, the purpose of the crown chakra, the purpose of this conversation is to activate and elevate your psychic powers. And if we can't communicate and commune on the fact that we have psychic powers, y'all be looking at me weird. I was fucking doing a reading. No cap. No pun intended. But I'm sitting there. I'm talking to her. I'm like, you could be sewing a cap right now. And you know how I do my analogies. And she fucking pulled up a cap. Like, literally, I said knitting a cap. And she literally was sitting talking to me knitting a cap. And I'm like, well, that's some psychic ass shit. But I'm saying, like, I'm like, okay, this is what it is. We fucking psychics. We fucking, but the human is going to be like, you full of shit. Generally, the people around me is going to test me. Is you really psychic? Is you really in tune? I don't need that energy, because I'm already telling you that you psychic as hell. I ain't questioning you or doubting you at all. I need that same energy. And this is how we grow. And ultimately, if you need any help or any guidance in this actual space, what has been helping me is the audiobook. You could probably get it on Audible. Edgar Casey. It's probably blocked out by my picture, but it's Casey, Cayce, Channeling Your Higher Self. It's about an hour long, and half of it is a meditation, but I try to listen to it as much as I can, because no matter what I'm going through, I'm going to always rely and channel my higher self. And generally, I'm going to assist that if the going gets tough and it gets rough for you, generally it's going to be temporary. But in the meantime, in between time, channel your higher self, because your higher self is available. Your higher self has the information for you. And I hope that you guys join me this Saturday. As I said earlier, I'm done with it. Now all I have to do is rehearse, edit, make sure some of this stuff is tight. But this the Crown Chakra Nova workshop, and it's taking place this Saturday. The link is in the bio, link is in the description. I would love for you guys to join me, because it's going to be a powerful build. But other than that, man, throughout the day, throughout the weekend, if y'all don't tune in to the course, tune in to your higher self. Yes, thank you. Tune into your higher self to the highest level of possibilities, no matter what you're going through. Trust that your higher self is putting you in that position for a reason, and actually walk through it, because your higher self has something amazing for you on the other side. I guarantee you. But generally, don't say I, say we. Peace.